What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm gonna make a full review of the Romancing Festival Misty banner that brings Misty, damage dealer with some status ailment, Gustave, a fully supportive tank, and Johan, a risky damage dealer for quick fights. Well, there are 8 different styles of Gustave in the game, 2 RS styles, then we have 2 Platinum SS styles, then there is the first UDX Gustave that was pretty bad, then Young Gustave, then the second Young Gustave, and now Old Gustave. Well, we can compare the status with the most recent one because in the end they are not so different apart. We are trading STR for will, because this version has 105% for both endurance and will, while the past version had less will, but we have less damage. Well, checking out on Gustave, we have arrows for endurance and will, the 2 defensive status. He's not focusing on doing damage, although he does okay. Bonuses goes for STR and will. It's good to get bonuses for will instead of end, because remember that will also helps not getting debuffed or inflicted with status ailments. It's easy to build Gustave because you can find double arrows for STR with his bucket kill Platinum style, or agility with his S style, so even if you don't have any version of Gustave, it will be very easy to build. Now, for passive we have Scrum Guard. This one is actually amazing and was changed in Global. In JP, he's a cover tank. The Scrum Guard decreases all incoming damage by 20% as long as everyone is alive. And in this game, we are getting more and more bosses that will stop you from buffing on every turn, or even sometimes cleansing all types of debuffs that you apply. So the only way to resist damage is by applying attack down or morale down on the enemy, decreasing damage on the source, or buffing your resistance with things like Scrum Guard or Guard Up or Defense Enhancement. Those are the main setups that you have. This was super useful on stages like Spiral Corridor 140 and 150 and will keep being useful. Scrum Guard is a node passive that was released first with Jorg, a character from a SaGa Soul banner that had nothing more besides Scrum Guard and heal, and didn't have good damage or anything else to offer. Then after Jorg, we got Final Impress, and she is such a good character up to this point, still considered one of the best ones in the game, because besides Scrum Guard, she has Imperial Shield and against all types of damage, and can also do okay damage herself. After Final Impress, we got Zeke. Zeke is a counter specialist with some good damage, and it's a gunner. After Zeke, we got Jane Mew is a character that can do damage and support. Jane is a happier user. He has even morale up and guard up with one of his skills. And now the last one is Gustave. We are just checking up because there is Final Impress already. They are both great sword users. Some may say that Gustave is fighting for Final Impress as well. While this may be true in some scenarios, you can use both together because Scrum Guard stacks. Not additively, but multiplicatively. So one decreases by 20, then you get the final damage decreases by 20 again, and so on. So there's no zero damage, but the more you stack, the less damage you receive. If you bring both Gustave and Final Impress in Remembrance battles, for example, you're gonna make your life much easier. Now, the next one is Breath of Invigoration 1. When landing an attack, he recovers HP by around 150 and also 1 BP. That means that Gustave has access to 4 BP per turn as long as he hits his attacks. The third passive is High Protect Tension. This increases damage by 20% and reduces all damage that he receives by 30. So, only 20% damage passive with low FTR. We know he's not offensive oriented, but if you get a very powerful weapon in his hand, he can do some okay damage too. And Scrum Guard, reducing damage by 20 for everyone in the party, and then again reducing 30% because of High Protect Tension. We start from the third skill, called Steel Dominance. As for skills, we'll start from the last. Steel Dominance, it's an 8 BP attack that is fast only in global and hits for a row of foes with slash damage S power and 44 modifier. If you stop it here, it will be good enough because double S power starts on 45, so you get good damage at low cost. But then he also grants all surviving allies a defensive stance spell with large effect that lasts for 2 turns. But what is that? It's a shield that decreases all spell damage. And large means 35%. So everyone will receive 35% less damage from magical attacks. The good thing, this is fast, that means that he will attack before the boss and decrease the damage from start. In JP, it's not fast, so he had a problem to go before the enemy and guarantee the damage reduction from start. And he also didn't have Scrum Guard, so see how big these changes are for global. They really matter. So the good thing is that because he has access to 4 BP per turn, he can use skill dominance again after 2 turns and keep this effect active at all times. Well, I can compare this Gustave to Golden Ball because she has Guard Up large that decreases damage by 35 for 2 turns. Guard Up works for physical and magical attacks. You can use both together even, but Golden Ball is more geared towards facing enemies that do physical attack, while Gustave is more geared towards enemies that do magical ones. He may work better with a companion like Matriarch Tree or any other will buffer to increase the resistance even further. All I can say is this is important for the future and will be relevant for fights against hard challenges like there is a boss coming and most of his attacks are magical, so you will decrease damage by a lot by stacking Scrum Guard together with Steel Dominance. And just so you know, there is only Gustave capable of casting this type of shield for the party. There is a single target version from himself as well, and another character that can cast from one target only. The other skill is his skill number 1, called Shielding Steel Sword. It's a 3 BP attack that uses slash damage, C power 16 mod, and casts defensive stance spell very large. You see, it's even higher, decreasing damage by 50% if it's magical. So he has a cycle that he can choose between what he does, but I don't think that the single target attack is good at all. You should be saving so that you always have Steel Dominance available in boss fights, unless that boss does not have any sort of magical attacks. Now, an inheritance that makes sense is Healing Blade, because you just don't use normal attacks anymore, instead you just heal when attacking. I believe that Brave Impact may make sense here and there if you want to go for support, increasing Greatsword damage instead of applying the magical shield, but this character really don't look much in the past. It's all about what he already has or getting access to Healing Blade. Or if you want some nuke, you could go fast and choose Triple Crush for when you need overdrive damage to finish a boss. And his second attack is Ardent Steel Blade, a 5 VP AoE attack that uses slash damage with C power and 16 mod. But this is just there. Maybe to help out when farming, you bring a strong character and Gustave just helps a little so that you can train him. But he's a very bad farmer, to be honest. You can instead inherit Steel Dominance into his best style, so that he can choose between a column or a row attack that can be used 2 times for farming, especially on events, or even on this young Gustave. He also has access to 13 BP and will do much more damage. So this version of Gustave will be more useful on boss fights, remembrance, hard challenges, but also helps you with farming if you have at least one of the past 2 versions. Also, it's good to remember that even if you don't have the other 2 versions of Gustave, Steel Dominance can still be used for farming if the first wave has rogue enemies, and the second one he can still use an AoE attack. But on Death Remembrance battle, he will help you so much by Scrum Guard and by being able to use Steel Dominance when boss summons mobs. He is the definitive character for Death Remembrance. Well, I also think it's worth to compare this Gustave to Rofa's Global Axe style, because they both have an attack with effects and they are boss specialist. Although Rofa's also has There You Go that heals and grants defense boost and attack boost, some people use him for start hooking, and this is an attack, single target only, with blunt and slash, that grants guard down so that you inflict more damage to the enemies, but also morale down, decreasing the damage a boss inflicts by 15%, so it's applied on the source, works for both magical and physical. The problem with Rofa's was his agility being only 83%, so sometimes he will only attack after the boss, while Gustave has a fast attack. He will go before and guarantee that you will receive less damage, although only for magical, but that's more than double the value, and I much prefer going after characters that are more specialists, since the bigger the damage reduction, the higher the chances of survival and winning a challenge. So Gustave is a very interesting character, and what he brings is unique. He will receive a triple S grade in our tier list by being so good when he actually offers. Do you really need to pull for him? Well, that's on you. If you already have Final Impress, you can decide if you want both. You don't always need to go all sorts of support. There are plenty of defensive systems in this game, like Golden Ball and Howling Princess White Rose. It's just that Gustave is good and has his place in the meta, hence why he is the best character of the banner. After this version of Gustave, JP got yet another one called Painter Gustave, and this one is very supportive. It has skills that don't even do damage, just increase status and recovers, and one attack that gives him guard up. It's not that much important, but just so you know that there's future for the character. The next character is Johan, and well, Johan has 5 different styles, with his off-banner being actually a sword user. All the past ones are just martial artists, so it makes so much sense to compare, but let's do this anyway. And we have higher STR, 110%, that means that he can inherit sword skills just fine. They even give him higher dexterity. This kind of hurts his martial arts style by sacrificing status for dexterity. You can see that his endurance is just the same, he suffers, but it's also kind of his lore. His intelligence is lower this time, so his debuffs are not as good. His agility is 112, a much bigger increase, but it's because he's a martial artist. He needs both STR and agility for damage and accuracy. Will is better, 81%, not that bad. That means that if the boss attacks with spells, he won't suffer as much. Well, this version has double arrows for agility and 1 arrow for STR, but bonuses goes for you. Like I said, he's more geared towards bosses than using magical attacks in STR. I don't know why bonus goes for STR instead of agility anyway. More because it probably also works for his sword skills, since agility wouldn't. If you want to farm agility, it's pretty easy. You can even use his A style that has double arrows, and he would do just fine. Double arrows for intelligence can be found on his off-banner style. Well, Johan has this passive called Mastery 1, STR and agility, buffing his STR and agility by 5% each turn and also giving him 1 BP. Well, mastery buffs are just good to have buffs active at all times, but the values are not so big. But with 4 BP per turn, he gets access to plenty of good rotations. Since he has very high agility, this will also help him evade some attacks. Now the second pass is called Scorpion Venom. Attack damage already increases by 15%, but also gets another 15% permanent each turn for 5 turns, totalizing 75 plus 15, equalizing 90% damage increase if he gets to turn 5. But there's a problem. He also applies to himself on the start of every turn a poison effect that lasts for 4 turns. So even on the turn number 5, he applies poison again and lasts for 4 turns, stealing each turn 10% of his HP. The reason why it's also on the lore of the character, it's a way to just increase his damage output by getting him into a risky position further and further. Depending on the parties that you are using, And if you can cleanse and keep healing with characters like Aspel Girl or Eleanor, we'll talk more about Eleanor later, he may survive, but he relies more on evasion than taking hits. Or if you have a very defensive party with plenty of guard ups and stuff, he may survive. And then Fired Up 6 gives him 30% increase in damage. On full potential, he reaches 120%, but on turn 1, it's only 30 plus 30 equalizing 60% increase in damage. Now, moving on to skills, the first one is called Rotation Kick. It's a free skill, 0 BP, D power 12 mod, okay, and has a chance to debuff the target's endurance by 15% on max level. His intelligence is not that high. On hard challenges, unless you are buffing intelligence, he will not land this. I would much prefer him to have a 0 BP skill that buffs his agility so that he could just evade, but no, they applied endurance debuff and this won't even help him all the time. But it's kind of similar to what Leon does, trying to apply endurance debuff to later nuke. The second skill is Mirage Kick, plus allowing everyone that has Mirage Kick to amplify this as well, and it's an AoE attack with the power 11 bot that not that strong by itself, but can be used at any time, and has a chance to debuff STR by up to 15%. This also makes his off-banner style an awesome AoE STR debuffer, but he himself may fail, like I said, by not having so much intelligence, and at least it's an AoE attack, a pretty cheap one. Now, the last attack, it's called Rising Sun. It's a 9 BP attack that also costs 1 LP. This is important. He's already poisoned and he's losing LP with 4S damage, but only blunt. See that he's full blunt? This attack is one of the strongest one in the game, especially if he reaches his max potential. And since he gets 4 BP per turn, he can use this on average almost every 2 turns. So the damage is good, but the thing is, he is a full blunt specialist. You know what? We have Leon, and Leon is more than enough to deal with bosses that are weak to blunt. Bringing bolt is also a problem, since Leon prefers Peon of Peace buffs from Matriarch and Johan prefers Peon of Victory. Maybe if you are going for a full evasion squad and you want someone to do damage, Johan can help. But his utility in the game decreases a lot by competing with the best boss killer in the game. And also his poison is extremely offensive to the character. With such a low endurance, depending on the attacks, he will just not survive. Unless you bring plenty of other effects. Like I said, if you have his off-banner style, you can just cross-inherit stuff, like you can get this Mirage Kick inherited into this version. Also, if you want another nuke, because you don't want to spend LP, in the future he will get Thunder Kick amplified into triple S power, so blunt and lightning damage he will be able to do. So at least for lightning he will be more unique. Besides, there is also Submission Plus that deals pretty good damage and debuffs STR by 20% now. It will do plenty of damage with this version of him. Still, if you get him, you can use him for nuke on farming. Rising Sun is gonna be explosive. You can even use this on turn 1 and then again on turn 3, but only if there are 3 waves, since he will try to force Mirage Kick on the second wave and that will break his cycle. So from his off-banner style, you can get Shadowless Strike that is actually good for the BP coast, and it applies stealth. If the boss has many single target attack, this will decrease the chance of being attacked. Or also Tornado Blade Plus, that is a full AoE attack with double S power that hits critical for flying enemies. If he wants to wait some turns, this will do good damage, but I really don't think this is an excuse to use this version of Johan, since the stakes are pretty high. Sadly, he's only gonna receive a low double S grade in our future update to the tier list, and it's a skippable character. And the last character is Misty, and she is a mage that equips martial arts and do physical damage. Yes, it will hit the enemy's endurance, so pretty unique, just like Creator and Apollo. She has very high intelligence at will, bonus and arrows for both. 115% intelligence is top class. Her agility is also high on 94%. So she will be able to attack the enemies usually before they attack her. Will is also pretty high to sustain against debuffs and status ailments, and the good thing is that Misty also has very good endurance, something pretty unlike for mages. That's because they didn't give her much STR or dexterity, so she had better status to get points, even charisma on 70%. On her S style, you find arrows for other status, so she's actually pretty easy to farm. Now moving to passives, the first one is called Egg's Memory. On the end of a turn, she will heal herself around 150 and get 1 BP. This is good because she does not need to attack, always gets BP. She will also get something else, 15 points of OD Gouge. Not that this matters too much, but it's there. Well, her second passive is called Active Momentum 2. Intelligence. On the start of a turn, she gets a 25% increase in her damage and also an intelligence buff of 15%. So, both effects are offensive, and by stacking intelligence, she will get big chances of inflicting ailments, but more on that later. Morale up can clash if you are casting Morale up from another source, but if you are not, it's a 25% increase in damage at all times. Then we get Black Anima. The third passive has so many effects. First of all, attack damage increases by 15%, and plus, on odd turns, that being 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, she will just get an increase into her damage by 10% by heat up, totalizing on max value in turn 9, 50% increase in damage. And on even turns, that being 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, she will get a decrease in damage by 10%, so getting as much as a 50% decrease in damage. So it takes time to reach full potential. Many fights are over by turn 10, but if the fight is pretty long and Misty survives, she will barely take damage and do a lot of damage herself. Remember that she is stacking intelligence too, and with a good weapon, the damage will be skyrocket. Also, with considering morale up too and all the heat up effects, she gets access to 90% damage increase. Now moving on to the skills, we have the first one called Ground Bash. It's an AoE blunt attack with C power in 16 mod. Pretty similar to Gustave AoE attack, so this is becoming more like a trend, getting attacks that can use it 3 times in a row. It's not that strong by itself, but since she can use this 3 times in a row, or even more because of her BP plus, it's okay, but pure blunt. The second skill is called Failing Star. It's a single target attack with slash and pierce damage, 8 power and 28 mod, but it hits between 1 to 2 times. If you get 1 hit, it's just 8 power, right? But if you get 2 hits, it's high triple S damage, but it's a gamble. It's kind of similar to what we saw with Death from Halloween Banner. We have something similar with this skill number 2 as well. As you can see, Beast Grudge is S power and can hit between 1 or 2 times. If he hits 2 times, it's equal to high triple S 4S power, and while Misty has double elements, that's why it's a little weaker. Now, skill number 3 is Big Bang Star. This has a 10 BP coast, slash and pierce, and comes with 4S damage and 77 modifier. Pretty big, not the highest 4S, but among the top ones. But because it's only 10 BP coast, it comes with recoil damage to the whole party besides Misty. So they will lose 20% of their HP to allow her to do damage with only 10 BP. Well, there are ways to kind of fix this problem, like bringing Rag Robin or any other Steelblade Light user, and using Big Bang Star only when your party has big HP. If not, just keep using Failing Star. And since Polka has delay, if your boss don't do that much damage in that specific turn, you may be able to recover everyone back to their full HP, depending if you are also buffing Love or Charisma with the party. Well, Big Bang Star is gonna do a lot of damage when farming. But there's just one problem. She does not have a follow-up attack. The only skill that she can use on turn 2 is one that comes from her SF style, called Slash Sign. That is an AoE slash attack. So she's coming from slash and pierce, and then uses an AoE slash. So yeah, she kinda needs a future style to fix these cycling problems. Then the second skill from her S style is Stone Curse, medium chance to apply petrification with only 6 VP cost. And since she buffs herself with active momentum and has very high intelligence already, she is the best petrify user in the game, beating characters like Taria and Muse easily. And for any future tower, she will help a lot. And some events you can still petrify enemies, but it's not that common. And the last skill is Meteor Swarm, an 8 VP AoE attack with blunt and heat, with low chance to inflict paralyzes. He stole this spell from Apollo. Not as Apollo, actually the first one, as you can see here, Meteor Swarm, but if you have Bird Apollo and you can inherit, you have bigger chances to apply paralyze because he buffs intelligence twice. So she's only the best petrifier, but not the best paralyze inflictor for AoE. But since Apollo needs 2 styles to perform this, and she has both paralyze and petrification with just her S style inherited, that is actually amazing. Well, Misty is a character that can use it in very long fights. Even if the fight does not take too much, she's already stacking hit up and defense up and will increase the damage output, but she needs the squad to be built around her, having characters like Red Robin and some others that will help heal. When you consider everything that she has access to, ailments, damage, sustain for long fights, she has plenty of value for long term. While not exactly a must-have, Misty is a good character to have and will receive a high SS grade in our tier list. Now, going back to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, yes, even though I'll be giving a silver award, but don't mind about this, it's just because Johan is a character that has no much value if you already have Leon, and most people need to have Leon to fight for the future. Since Gustave is a triple S character, he is worth by himself. If you don't have Final Impress, you should totally pull for him. If you do have and you want to see other banners, you can wait. This banner will last for 1 month, but you still have Misty, a character that offers plenty of different effects with just one single style. So if you like Gustave and Misty and they will offer into your party, summon. There's no problem. They will offer a lot. I am pulling for this banner because of these 2 characters, but what about you? What do you think about it all? Say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links in the description of the video. I hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.